The sun rises over the quiet, manicured streets of Willow Creek Estates, a gated community, pristine and polished, at least on the surface. The air is thick with the scent of freshly mowed grass and entitlement. HOA board members sip coffee on their porches, watching, judging. I, Dr. Marcus Bennett, have lived here for 3 years minding my business. My land, a sprawling 5-acre property on the edge of the neighborhood, was a point of curiosity from day one. Unlike the symmetrical, chemically treated lawns of my neighbors, mine was a lush paradise of self-sustaining crops. Rows of tomatoes, strawberries, collard greens, and exotic herbs grew in harmony. Organic, sustainable, and most importantly, mine. The irony? The same people who scowled at my farm were the first to show up at my farmer's market stand, cash in hand. They loved my produce but hated seeing it grow here. And, of course, there was her, Deborah Whitmore, HOA president. A woman whose power trip stretched beyond property guidelines and into the realm of absolute control. She never spoke directly to me, but I could feel her distaste every time she passed by. "You know," my neighbor, Tom, had whispered once, "Deborah doesn't like how different your property looks." Different. That word again. I shrugged it off. I had bigger things to focus on, like my work as a U.S. ambassador, advocating for food security worldwide. My diplomatic status was not something I advertised. As far as the HOA knew, I was just another homeowner. But then, small things started happening. A warning letter about unauthorized agricultural use. A new policy banning front yard gardens, though mine was in the backyard. An anonymous complaint about wildlife attraction because of my crops. It was irritating, but not unexpected. I had dealt with microaggressions before. I kept my head down and followed the rules. Until one morning, when I stepped outside and smelled it. Chemical. Acrid. Wrong. And then I saw it. My crops, every last one of them, were dead. I stand frozen, my breath caught in my throat. My once thriving crops, rows of deep green collard greens, ruby red tomatoes, and fragrant basil, are now wilted, browned at the edges, curling in on themselves like dying embers. The soil looks dry, but this isn't dehydration. It's poisoned. A gust of wind carries the sharp, acrid scent of chemicals. Pesticide? Herbicide? Something stronger? My stomach tightens. My hands brush against a shriveled vine. It crumbles beneath my fingertips. This wasn't accidental. A slow rage coils in my chest, but I force myself to breathe. I need proof. I walk the perimeter of my property, scanning for anything unusual. The back fence, facing the HOA-mandated walking trail, is undisturbed. The gate is locked. Yet, at the far end of my land, near the entrance to my greenhouse, I find it. A discarded plastic jug. A few drops of milky liquid still cling to the inside. I squat down, carefully picking it up. The label is faded, but I recognize the brand. Weed Blaster Max, industrial strength herbicide. Not something an average gardener would use. My pulse pounds in my ears. Who would do this? Then, as if on cue, a voice, honeyed, condescending, drifts from the sidewalk. "Oh dear. What a shame." I turn, gripping the jug tighter. Deborah Whitmore stands at the edge of my property, her manicured hands resting on her hips. She's dressed in her usual HOA uniform, pastel blouse, pearls, pressed slacks. The picture of suburban authority. She tilts her head, faux concern dripping from every word. "I did warn you about those unsightly crops, Marcus. Maybe now you'll consider something more appropriate." Appropriate? Like the sterile, lifeless lawns the HOA worshipped? I take a slow step forward, searching her face for any flicker of guilt. But Deborah is good. Her expression is neutral, her eyes unreadable. "I don't recall violating any HOA rules," I say, keeping my voice even. Her smile doesn't reach her eyes. "Well, that depends. The bylaws clearly state that all landscaping must maintain the aesthetic integrity of the community. And unfortunately, your little farm? It never quite fit in." Aesthetic integrity. Code 4. This isn't a place for you. My fists clench, but I remind myself, anger won't get me answers. "I'll be investigating this," I say coolly. And if I find out someone was responsible for damaging my property, there will be consequences. Deborah chuckles. Oh, Marcus. Always so serious. She glances around, as if ensuring an audience. But maybe this is a blessing in disguise. You are a busy man. Perhaps now you can use this space for something more community-friendly? She doesn't wait for a response. Instead, she turns, strolling back toward her house, her pearls catching the morning sun. And just like that, I know. This wasn't just about my crops. This was a message. I don't sleep that night. Instead, I sit at my desk, poring over the HOA bylaws, cross-referencing every line with county regulations. Nowhere does it say my crops were prohibited. The aesthetic integrity clause is vague, intentionally so. A loophole they wield like a weapon. But intent matters. Someone destroyed my property. And I need proof. By dawn, I have a plan. I start with the security cameras. The HOA prohibits visible cameras, but I've always had discreet ones installed. One near the greenhouse and another facing the back fence. I sift through the footage, eyes scanning every second. Then, at 2:37 a.m., I see it. A shadowy figure, hooded, moving quickly. They pour something over the crops, then toss the jug aside before disappearing down the HOA walking trail. The resolution isn't perfect, but the gait, the frame, it's familiar.
Tom.
My neighbor. The same man who'd warned me about Deborah's disapproval. My jaw tightens. So, he wasn't just an informant, he was a participant. But was he acting alone? I marched straight to Tom's house that morning. He answers the door in a robe, coffee in hand. When he sees me, his smile falters. Marcus. Everything okay? I hold up my phone, showing the grainy footage. Want to explain this? His face drains of color. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't lie to me, Tom. My voice is calm, but there's steel behind it. You destroyed $53,000 worth of crops. That's felony vandalism. I could have you arrested right now. He stammers, looking over his shoulder, as if someone might save him. Look, man, it wasn't personal. I take a step closer. Then who put you up to it? His lips part, hesitation thick in the air. Then, Before he can speak, a sharp, clipped voice interrupts. That's enough.
Deborah.
She stands at the curb, flanked by two other HOA board members. A united front. Tom clams up immediately. My stomach churns. He's scared of her. Deborah folds her arms, her expression one of absolute confidence. Marcus, I'd hate for you to start making baseless accusations. That wouldn't reflect well on a respectable member of the community like yourself. Her words drip with subtext. I narrow my eyes.
Funny.
I was just about to file a police report. Maybe they'd like to see the security footage. A flicker, brief, but there, crosses her face. But she recovers quickly. She sighs, shaking her head in mock disappointment. It would be a shame if the HOA had to reconsider your membership here. My breath catches. There it is. A threat. She's not even hiding it anymore. If I push this, they'll use their power to make my life hell. Fines, citations, legal loopholes, until they force me out. I glance at Tom again. He stares at the ground, silent. He won't help me. But I don't need him. I already have what I need. I spend the next 4 hours gathering evidence. First, I file a formal police report. The footage might not be crystal clear, but it places Tom at the scene. That alone is enough for questioning. Then, I contact a forensic lab to test the soil and the leftover herbicide. If it matches the chemicals from the jug I found, that's a direct link. Finally, I make a call, one I've been waiting to make. When the person on the other end picks up, I smile for the first time in 24 hours. Yeah, I say. I think it's time I reminded some people exactly who I am. The HOA emergency meeting is called for 6 p.m. sharp. The email states it's to address community concerns. Translation? To put me in my place. I arrive early, dressed sharply in a navy suit. No more casual clothes. No more blending in. Tonight, I remind them exactly who they're dealing with. The community center is packed. Residents murmur in hushed tones, stealing glances my way. At the front, Deborah sits like a queen on her throne, flanked by her loyal board members. Tom is there too, eyes downcast. I take my seat near the front. I say nothing. Let them make the first move. Deborah clears her throat and stands, a picture of polished authority. Thank you all for coming. We have a rather unfortunate situation to address. She casts a sympathetic look in my direction. Mr. Bennett has been making some very serious accusations, false accusations, against both the HOA and members of our community. A few murmurs of agreement ripple through the room. Deborah's supporters. I remain still. She sighs dramatically. I understand his frustration. However, it's important that we maintain the integrity of Willow Creek Estates. Her gaze sharpens. That means following rules and respecting the decisions of the HOA. She turns to me now, voice dripping with condescension. Marcus, I know you're upset about your garden, but perhaps it's time to move forward. The board has reviewed your complaints and found no evidence of wrongdoing. I'm afraid pursuing this further would only damage your standing in the neighborhood. There it is. A veiled warning. I finally rise, adjusting my suit. So, just to be clear, you're saying no one was involved in poisoning my crops? Deborah smiles tightly. That's correct. I nod. And you're willing to stand by that statement? Absolutely. I glance at Tom. He doesn't look up. I take a deep breath, then say loudly, clearly, Detective Wallace, you can come in now. The double doors swing open, and a uniformed police detective strides into the room. A hush falls. Deborah stiffens. What is the meaning of this? I step aside, letting Detective Wallace take the floor. We've been investigating a case of felony vandalism, he says, voice firm. And thanks to Mr. Bennett, we have evidence that directly links one of your residents to the crime. A gasp ripples through the audience. Tom visibly pales. Deborah's jaw tightens. This is ridiculous. Oh, I don't think so, I say smoothly. See, I installed security cameras. One of them caught a very clear image of Tom trespassing on my property the night my crops were destroyed. Tom shrinks into his seat. But that's not all. I continue. I also had the soil tested. Turns out, the exact chemical used matches a brand of herbicide that was purchased at a local supplier, using an HOA credit card. The room erupts. Residents murmur in shock. Some turn to Deborah, eyes wide with suspicion. Deborah's face loses all color. That's a lie. Detective Wallace pulls a printed receipt from a folder. We trace the purchase. The card is registered to the HOA. And the signature? He turns the paper toward her. Deborah Whitmore. A collective gasp. Deborah's mouth opens. Closes. Opens again. This is a mistake. Oh, I don't think so, I say, voice calm. You see, I know how people like you operate. You don't get your hands dirty. You have someone else do it. And when things go wrong, I glance at Tom. You let them take the fall. Tom snaps. It was her. She told me to do it. His voice cracks. She said the crops had to go, that it was ruining the image of the neighborhood. Pandemonium breaks out. Residents turn on Deborah. The mask shatters. Her composure crumbles as she glares at Tom. You idiot! Detective Wallace steps forward. Mrs. Whitmore, we'll need you to come with us for questioning. The shock on her face is delicious. For the first time ever, Deborah Whitmore has lost control. Deborah's hands tremble as Detective Wallace steps closer. The once unshakable HOA queen looks cornered, her carefully curated image crumbling under the weight of undeniable evidence. I am not going anywhere, she spits, her voice shrill. This is a mistake. A misunderstanding. Wallace remains unmoved. We have a signed purchase receipt, security footage, and now. He gestures toward Tom, who looks like he might be sick. A cooperating witness confirming you orchestrated the crime. The audience erupts. She used HOA funds for this? What else has she been hiding? I knew she was shady. Deborah spins, eyes wild, as she tries to regain control. Everyone, please. Let's not be hasty. She forces a laugh, though panic creeps into her voice. This is clearly a mistake. Marcus. She turns to me, her expression shifting to one of forced diplomacy. You wouldn't want this to become an unfortunate misunderstanding, would you?
Ah.
There it is. The last-ditch effort. The unspoken threat. If I back down now, she'll try to make this all disappear. But I'm done playing games. I cross my arms. Oh, I want clarity, Deborah. In fact, I'd love for you to explain, on record, why the HOA was buying industrial-strength herbicide. The murmurs grow louder.
People are listening now.
Really listening. Sweat beads on Deborah's forehead. The purchase was for community landscaping. Detective Wallace raises an eyebrow. Funny, because I spoke to the landscaping company you hired. They said they provide their own supplies. So either you bought the chemicals for a personal project, or you were using HOA funds for unauthorized purposes. She swallows hard. This is ridiculous. I lean forward, voice calm. Then you won't mind if we audit HOA finances. The room goes silent. Deborah's eyes widen. That's it. The real fear. Because this isn't just about my crops anymore. If she's been misusing funds for this, what else has she been doing behind closed doors? More voices rise from the crowd. Wait, should we check where our dues have been going? She's had control over the finances for years. What if she's been embezzling? Deborah snaps. Stop. Just stop. She slams her hand on the table, her polished composure finally cracking. You think you can just waltz in here and ruin everything? Her voice is thick with barely restrained fury as she glares at me. This is my community. I built this place. I made it into something decent. Decent. A loaded word. I stare at her. And by decent, you mean excluding people like me, right? Her mouth opens. No words come out. Checkmate. Her face twists, a mess of rage and desperation. She's unraveling. Fast. Her breathing turns shallow, her eyes darting around the room. She's looking for an escape. Then, she grabs the microphone. I am the president of this HOA, she shrieks, voice shaking. I have done nothing wrong. Everything I've done has been for the betterment of this neighborhood. You people don't even appreciate what it takes to maintain order. Her words are cut short by the sound of approaching sirens. Outside, 2 police cruisers pull up. Her last lifeline is gone. Detective Wallace nods toward his officers. Mrs. Whitmore, as of now, you are under investigation for felony vandalism and potential financial fraud. The crowd erupts again, this time in outrage. Fraud. She really was stealing from us. Lock her up. Deborah panics. You can't do this to me. This is insanity. She turns to her board members. Say something. Help me. But none of them move. They won't go down with her. The 2 officers approach. Deborah stumbles back, her carefully cultivated mask completely destroyed. Wait. I can explain. You can't just.
Click.
Handcuffs snap around her wrists. A stunned silence fills the room. Then, a slow, satisfying murmur of approval spreads through the crowd. Deborah Whitmore, the self-proclaimed queen of Willow Creek Estates, is let out in handcuffs. The next morning, the entire neighborhood is buzzing. The once pristine streets of Willow Creek Estates are now filled with hushed whispers, shocked conversations, and the undeniable stain of a fallen queen. Deborah Whitmore, the woman who ran this HOA like her personal empire, has been arrested, exposed, and utterly humiliated. The local news cameras camp outside her home, capturing the moment officers escort her out in cuffs for the second time, this time for financial crimes. The HOA's financial audit, fast-tracked after last night's revelation, uncovered tens of thousands of dollars in fraudulent transactions. Personal vacations disguised as community events. Luxury furniture bought under office expenses. Even her home's remodel, funded with HOA money. It wasn't just about my farm. She had been robbing everyone blind. The community awakens. By noon, an emergency HOA meeting is held. Without Deborah. Residents who once blindly followed her lead now look horrified, betrayed. Some apologize to me directly. I had no idea she was capable of this, says Mrs. Thompson, an older woman who once defended Deborah religiously. She won't even meet my eyes. Guess she wasn't trying to protect the neighborhood after all, mutters another resident, shaking his head. She was just protecting herself. The HOA dissolves on the spot. A vote is cast, and in a landslide decision, Deborah Whitmore is permanently banned from holding any HOA leadership position, ever. And Tom? Oh, Tom is finished. In a desperate bid to save himself, he had thrown Deborah under the bus. But the community isn't so quick to forgive his role in destroying my farm. His landscaping business, once thriving due to HOA contracts, loses every single client overnight. No one wants to work with a proven liar. My victory, my peace. As for me, I walk my land, breathing in the scent of fresh soil and renewal. The damage was great, but not permanent. Insurance covered a fraction, but an unexpected twist came in the form of donations from the very community that once stayed silent. Neighbors who never spoke to me before show up with help, supplies, and even money to restore what was lost. It's not about the money, it's about what it means. A reckoning,
A shift.
acknowledgement, and that's worth more than the crops. One last surprise. A week later, I receive an official invitation. It's from the mayor. After hearing about the case, they want to recognize my efforts in exposing corruption and fighting injustice. At the ceremony, I step onto the stage, taking the microphone. I don't talk about revenge. I don't talk about Deborah.
I talk about change.
About why people like her thrive, because too many good people say nothing. And then I smile. Because here, now, they're finally listening. Final scene. Deborah's downfall. As I leave the ceremony, a headline flashes across my phone screen. Former HOA President Deborah Whitmore faces multiple charges, potential prison time. Below, a photo of her leaving court, face hollow, eyes downcast. She has lost everything. Her power, her reputation, her control. Karma always comes. And this time, it came fast.